Hello, and welcome back to the Let Me Add to That podcast. My name is Elizabeth Graswich, Executive Director of Public Affairs and Communications at the Los Angeles County Office of Education. We are the largest regional education agency in the United States. We serve 80 school districts and nearly 2 million children. We are excited to use this platform to take a deep dive into the conversations surrounding our students and schools in LA County. Hello and welcome. I am Elizabeth Graswich, Executive Director of Public Affairs and Communications for the Los Angeles County Office of Education, and I am so excited for today's episode because we are focused on Women's History Month. I am joined by two women who I have so much admiration for as leaders: Los Angeles County Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Debra Duardo, and Glendale Unified School District Superintendent, Dr. Vivian Ekchian, who is also our Los Angeles County Superintendent of the Year. Since this is Women's History Month, I want to start out with asking you to reflect on who was the most influential woman in your leadership journey and why. Dr. Duardo?
Wow, there are so many women that have influenced who I am and who I've become, starting with my own mother and my, sisters and aunts. But when I think about my professional journey as a leader, I absolutely have to say Patty Giggins. And she was the first boss I had where I worked in a professional atmosphere. So it wasn't like at Kentucky Fried Chicken or McDonald's, but really where I learned how to become a professional.
Awesome. Dr. Ekchian?
That is a difficult question because I've had the good fortune of working with so many fabulous role models. The most recent one that I would like to mention is Dr. Maria Ott, who actually supported me in becoming a superintendent in Glendale and has been that mentor role model. And I believe her modeling compassionate leadership and how to do hard things in a humane way stands out in my mind as you're asking me that question right now.
Absolutely, which really kind of leads me to my next question, which is, the one piece of advice that you were given by that leader that they provided for you.
I think Dr. Ott taught me that listening is a skill, one that has to be honed over time, and that motivation is really important no matter how tired you are. If someone took the time to write their concerns down or to request a meeting, then it must be important. And if it's important to them, it's important to you. Also, empathy. It's critical for us as leaders to embrace each other's stories, to use them to step into another person's shoes, and to take clues from them about how our organization is currently working. And lastly, social skills. Having a calm, focused energy, asking good questions, and providing thoughtful answers makes everyone feel important and valued, and we have to be humble when we do that.
That's beautiful. Dr. Duardo?
Well, when I think about Patty Giggins, you have to remember I was really young. I was like 19 when I started working for her. So for me, what I learned from her that really stands out in my mind is that it's okay to make mistakes. And the important thing is when you make mistakes, that you take responsibility. It's about how you clean up the mistake rather than the mistake itself. And she was so kind and so understanding when I was very young and made lots of mistakes, but really taught me and encouraged me that it's okay. And that, as long as you take responsibility and you make the corrective action that needs to be made, that's okay. She also taught me a lot about feminism, because I worked for her. It was a feminist organization, the LA Commission on Assaults Against Women. She taught me about equity and about taking action. So really modeling what you want to see in others, and a lot of kindness and compassion and enthusiasm, because she is one of the most energetic women I know.
And in this month, we celebrate women in the history and their leadership over the years, but we still have growth to go through. So what do you think is the most significant barrier for leaders, female leaders today?
So I ask myself that question every day. If I want to be a wise, compassionate leader who needs to develop and manifest courage, what does that really look like? Wise, compassionate leaders do not hide. They do not point their fingers at others and shirk responsibility. They do not avoid hard things or difficult decisions. Wise, compassionate leaders speak up when necessary and live their values. It's easy to stay in our comfort zone, but it's only when we move beyond that we find the courage to do hard things and face confrontations that we can only truly say make us better and effective leaders.
Thank you. And Dr. Duardo?
Wow, we could say we've come a long way, baby. But, unfortunately, there's still a lot of gender bias. There's still a lot of stereotyping. We still see, when you look at executive level positions, they're predominantly held by men. And unfortunately, we still see sexism, sexual harassment, bias for women in terms of what their roles are. And I think that sometimes it's subtle. It's not as overt as maybe we saw it in the 50s and 60s. It's more subtle. And I think we have to do a lot of things to make sure that we're educating women and men about, treating everybody with respect and what it means to be a woman or a man, or how we are unique or how we may be different, but how we can all work together in a respectful manner.
And we have made progress, right? You've seen progress through your career. Can you speak to some of that progress that you've seen?
I think women are far more confident in their abilities. If in the past they always waited to be asked to apply for a position or to compete for something that they felt they were eligible for, I see women stepping forward, leaning in, supporting one another, and also building each other's strengths through trust, through listening with empathy, understanding, changing the narrative about female leadership, and together galvanizing for action, which again takes a lot of courage.
Dr. Duardo, is there something you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I think that some of the things that we've seen are even in policies, where when you look at childcare leaves, that there are universal leaves, there are things that have changed and have made it easier because, traditionally women have been the, primary caretaker of children. Obviously, women are the one who have to take time off during their pregnancies, after birth. But I think some of the policies that have changed, more subsidized childcare, things to support women, and I think just an overall more awareness. People are more aware of, being politically correct, of doing the right thing. There's been a lot more education. So I think those things have made it, have improved situations for women. But as I said, there are still areas where women are less likely to advocate for themselves, to self-promote, to seek promotions, or negotiate salaries. I mean, those are still struggles that I think women have and are it's getting better because there's more written about female leadership and more networking and more opportunities to grow. So I'd say we've made improvement, but we still have some areas to grow.
I do see an area that is implicit, as we talk about implicit bias, and that is ageism. For women, that is far more pronounced than it is for men. So if we have a president who's 80 years old, and that is celebrated, I look forward to having a female president who will be 80 years old and celebrated as such. So I do see progress, as Dr. Duardo mentioned, but still we have to push the envelope. We have to have these conversations and bring it to the attention of those who do it without even recognizing that they're having conversations around age when it comes to women, but not so much about men.
I totally agree with that. And I was just thinking as Dr. Ekchian was speaking that sometimes it's so ingrained in our culture that it becomes invisible, that we don't even see it when it's happening because we've all grown to accept it as the norm. So I totally agree, especially with ageism. Also, just how people look at behavior differently. Like when men behave in a way that's more aggressive, they're seen as being competent and strong. But when you see women self-assert or act in a more aggressive behavior, they're considered bossy or pushy or worse. You can think of many other names that are used for women that take a more assertive role.
So I do think our systems are complex because people interact with each other in dynamic, evolving, and unpredictable ways. And it is adaptive because human behavior constantly shifts and self-organizes in response to events. I do think when we elevate women, promote women, particularly women of color, and our organization is filled with competent individuals who also are women, we are sending a clear message about leadership and about competence.
Absolutely. And you both lead large organizations. And when you reflect on those organizations, what are some of the things that leaders can do in their own workplaces to promote gender equity and empower women to become leaders?
Well, some of the things that I talked about are having more female leadership programs, mentorship opportunities, educating people across the board, men and women alike, right? Because we need to understand that this is not just an issue for women, but it's also an issue for men, and that we need to educate men as well. We need to offer trainings and more opportunities around promotion and making sure that it's done in an equitable way and that we're actually looking at our data and looking at the people in our organization to make sure that we are diverse, not only women, men, but age, race, disability, all of the things that we know that the more diverse our organization is, the stronger we are.
I think offering support and recognizing that the absence of choices for women in our organization is really systemic oppression. And being able to talk about it and question ourselves and want to push ourselves to be better tomorrow than we were today is an important step to model as a leader. So everyone watches us every day, no matter what we're doing, and how we honor and respect one another, speak to each other, allow ideas to be brought forward, speaks to the organization and the health. Dysfunction is easily recognized. The health of the organization is a collaborative effort that takes everyone. It's not just about the leader, but every person making a commitment.
Thank you. And when you think about the young women who are listening, what would you recommend to them in terms of developing their leadership skills?
I would say be compassionate, be courageous, listen to the community, develop yourself every day. We are leaders and learners every day, and empower students to achieve their aspirational goals if you are in education, but empower everyone around you who may have less, who may know less, and give them the opportunities to be able to close the gaps that they see in their lives at this point.
I agree with everything Dr. Ekchian said. I would add, be yourself, know what your core values are, what makes you unique, and set clear career goals for yourself. And be open to seeking a mentor or developing some type of opportunity where you can grow professionally. But I think a lot of it is also having confidence in yourself and believing that you can do anything you set yourself out to do and to ask for help when you need it.
And as we wrap up our conversation, is there something that you would want our listeners to walk away with as they reflect on Women's History Month and female leadership?
I think it's important to recognize that we are where we are today because of giants prior to our coming, and we are really benefiting from that. So lead a purpose-driven life. Know why you do what you do, and do not allow any lows and learnings to get in your way of continuing to become better.
That is absolutely beautiful. And as always, I agree with almost everything Dr. Ekchian has to say. I would add to that, as she just said, honor the women before us that have made it possible for us to be where we are, the civil rights movement, the feminist movement. I'd add, for women to pay attention to their own self-talk, to fight off that nagging voice that can be in the back of our heads telling us we're not good enough, smart enough, strong enough, thin enough, you name it, but really to start to believe that, we do have the ability to lead. We lead with inspiration. We lead with empathy and compassion and vulnerability. And I think that's what oftentimes makes us unique. And the more women start to see that, those things that are unique to them are what makes them who they are, and it's a strength.
And take agency of your life.
Absolutely. I just want to thank you both. It is an honor for me personally to be able to work with you both, and you just inspire so many of us every day. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please follow the Los Angeles County Office of Education on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Los Angeles COE. That's Los Angeles COE. Or you can find us on Facebook and LinkedIn at Los Angeles County Office of Education.